Stop wasting time tapping apps. Let Apple Home handle the boring stuff. I've got 4 automations for you today. We'll start off very simple and then we'll level up fast. Which one will we try first? Let's dive in. If you follow along this HomeKit journey, everything's been leading up to this moment. We've talked about the setup, we've talked about devices, as well as accessories. Now it's time to make them work for you. This is where HomeKit really shines. Automations take it from cool tech to something that actually makes life easier. And if you're just joining out, don't worry, you're right on time, because this is where it all comes together. All right, before we jump into automations, make sure your setup's ready to roll. You'll need the Apple Home app open, ideally on an iPhone or an iPad, and make sure you keep that handy for this entire setup. You're gonna wanna make sure you have an Apple HomePod or Apple TV. Those are gonna act as your home hubs so that automations can run even when you're away from your home. And if this is your first HomeKit setup, make sure you check out my starter video. I break down hubs, devices, and naming tips to make this part of the process a lot easier. One of those tips includes things like we're gonna name a device a living room lamp instead of just outlet number 4. It's linked up top and down below. All right, ready to see the magic in action? Who still walks up to turn the lamp on? Not us. What you're gonna do is you're gonna plug any regular lamp into a smart plug. You're gonna give it a name. Seriously, naming matters here. So think about, what will you name yours? Test it. Say, hey, turn on desk lamp. Okay, now that we got the voice control and we kind of practiced that, and we know that that feels good, now what we want to do is actually set up our automation. So thinking ahead, we're going to be going to that automation area. We're going to hit the plus icon, and we're going to think about what time do we want this to turn on and off. So in this example, let's say we want it to turn on at 6 p.m. and maybe we want it to turn off at 11 p.m. every night. So that's what we're going to set up. I mentioned earlier you want to make sure you have an iPhone or an iPad, but for the sake of this video, just to make this easier, I'm actually going to show you setting up the automations using a MacBook. So in this case, you open up the Home app, you go to the Automation tab, and you're going to add a device. So setting our first one up here, we're going to select time of day to get that one going. We're going to adjust our time to be 6 o'clock p.m. and select next. Now here's where you're going to select whatever device it is that you actually want to control. So in our example, we're going to set up the porch lights. So I'm going to select those and click next again. So now in this, you want to select what do you actually want this device to do. So in this example, I want to actually turn the porch light on. So I need to set that to 100% brightness. Of course, if you wanted it to only be 50%, you can make that adjustment there. And what this is showing here is we have successfully set up that very first automation. So now we have this set up to turn on at 6 o'clock. We don't want this to stay on all night. So the next thing is to select the time that we want this particular lamp to go off. So we're going to say, hey, let's turn this off at 11 o'clock p.m. So pretty much the exact same process. We adjust our time to 11 o'clock. We're going to select which device it is that we want to control. So in this example, the porch light again. And now we want to make sure that it's off. In this case, it defaulted to that, so we're okay. So if you look here, you can actually see the difference in the icons. So when we're turning something on, you can see the lamp is kind of that bright yellow color, but if it's off, it's kind of shaded or a gray color. Okay, and just like that, we've set up our first automation. This next automation is one that I really like because this is more of a set it, forget it. And as the seasons change, you really don't have to make any adjustments. So we hate coming home to a dark house. Let's fix that. Apple Home knows when the sunset sets and when sunrise rises. So let's set our porch lights to turn on at sunset and have them turn off at sunrise. For this particular automation, I highly recommend that you add some level of offset. So in this example, I'd recommend that 15 minutes before sunset, we have those lamps turn on. And then for the second part of this, we're going to create a second automation to turn them off automatically. So that way we don't have to worry about wasted energy. All right, we're going to start this automation identical to the previous one. So in our automation tab, we are going to hit the plus sign. We're going to add an automation. We're going to select that we want to do this based off a time of day. However, this time we are going to pick sunset. So based off of this, we're going to hit the little eye icon. And if you look in here, you could see you can do everything from 4 hours after sunset to up to 4 hours before sunset. So that means as sunset changes throughout the year, it's consistently going to make that adjustment. So in our case, we're going to pick 15 minutes. After we do that, we're going to go and pick which accessory that we actually want to control. So again, in our case, we're going to pick those front porch lights and we want to turn them on. So we're going to put them at 100%. Again, I'm just showing here that you can adjust any range that you want. But again, we're going to say for this example, we want to set these at 100%. And here there is an option to turn off. And if you click through here, you can see you can pick a prefix time to never turn off or anything up to 4 hours. But in our case, we're going to select never because we're going to turn this off a different manner. So we're going to set up our second automation now. Again, picking time of day. And now we want to pick sunrise. So as the sun comes up, we're going to say, hey, let's go ahead and turn these lights off. Again, you have the exact same adjustments before. We're going to say 15 minutes beforehand. We're going to keep this defaulted for every single day of the week. We're going to pick the accessory that we want to control. And then we want to make sure we have this selected to turn off. And again, this one defaulted to that off position. So as you can see here, we have the two automations set up. Again, 15 minutes before sunset, they are going to turn on, indicated by the yellow icon, and 15 minutes before sunrise, they will turn off, indicated by the gray icon. So I realized I missed a very important detail here. So going back to the automation, you can go back and adjust it, or you could do it in the beginning. But when you look at these icons for the day of the week, anything that's lit up in the solid orange color indicates the day of the week that that particular automation is going to run. So when these originally were lit up in all orange, that's how you know that this automation is going to trigger every single day of the week. Now, if for some reason you want to alternate, you only want it to come on some days, not others, this is where you can go in and make that adjustment. Okay, this next one feels like living in the future. How would you like it if your lights turned off, your doors locked, and maybe a bedside lamp turned on all automatically? This can be done with a good night scene. Now, for the sake of this video, we're going to start with a very simple good night scene. We're going to automate a lamp, my studio lights, and we're going to turn our ceiling fan on. Doing this is going to simulate setting us up for sleep mode and keep us cool overnight. Now, in order to get this automation up and running, the process is a little bit different. So in the automation tab, we're going to go in there, we're going to add an automation, but this time we are going to select scene as opposed to automation. So you're not going to be prompted to name your scene. You want to go ahead and select, or rather you want to go in and type the name of your scene. And afterwards, you're now going to select the accessories that you want to be part of that scene. So in this example, I want my studio lights to be one of the items that I control. Those are the hue bloom lights. I have them labeled left and right. I have a reading lamp that is connected to a Lutron switch. And I also have a ceiling fan that is, again, connected to a Lutron switch. So we're going to simulate for nighttime. We're going to turn the hue lights on, the reading lamp off, and the ceiling fan. Now, in order to find the scene that we just created, you're not going to find that in the automation section. You have to go to the main page for the Apple Home that you have set up. There'll be a section there for scenes, and that's where you'll find the scene that we just created. And we're still going to keep it cool with this last automation, literally. So if you got a HomePod Mini, it's got a built-in temperature and humidity sensor. This is perfect for summer days or stuffy rooms. What we're going to do is we're going to set up an automation where if our HomePod temperature notices the room is above a certain temperature, we're going to turn on the desk fan. This is going to keep us cool at night. To set up this final automation, we're going to start it like we did some of the others. Go into the automation tab. We're going to add an automation, but this time we're going to pick a sensor detects something. So once you pop that open, all the sensors that you have part of your Apple Home are going to show up. In my case, in the office, I have a HomePod Mini that again can do temperature and humidity sensing. So I'm going to select the temperature piece of that. And then the options you have here is if your temperature rises above or drops below a certain threshold, then it will then go do something. So in our case, we're going to say if it rises above 75 degrees, we are going to pick our desk fan in the office, and we want to toggle that device on to keep us cool while we're in the office. So once we select this, you can see now here it says when the temperature rises above 75 degrees in the office, it shows that blue indicator saying that the fan is going to be turned on or enabled if that particular condition is met. All right, which one's first for you? Start with the smart plug. That one's an easy win. Then you could try the sunset or the temperature trigger. Good night or good morning scenes. Which automation are you most excited to try? Drop them in the comments. I'll read them all. If this helped you, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more Apple Home magic. If you want to go deeper, check out my full Apple HomeKit playlist linked here. It's packed with ideas that's going to make your smart home smarter. Until next time.